Guys, going on, more videos. Okay, this one is about crawl ratio, overall gearing for your mud truck, mega truck, your daily, your rock crawler, whatever you're doing. I'm gonna explain how to gear your vehicle and how it works and what is crawl ratio and your transmissions and your transfer cases and all that good stuff. So this is my mega. So what I had is I had a stock 2010 Silverado 2500. It came with a 6L90 transmission. That is a 6-speed. It also came with a 4-wheel drive transfer case. That has a 1-to-1 and a 2.7-to-1 ratio when it's in 4 low. My Rockwells have a 6.44 ratio. And then I had my SCS case, which I explained in my SCS case tech video. So what does this all mean? We need to get our gears figured out so that we could spin these big tires. You need to match that. If you don't have a lot of horsepower like me, I have a stock 6-liter LS. It revs and makes power, but not that much. To spin these tires that weigh 400 pounds, you need a lot of reduction. So what I do now is I had both of these transfer cases, this one, the stock one, and this SCS in low range. And I was able to accomplish about 92-to-1 crawl ratio. It was pretty deep. It was almost too low, which is why I've adjusted this truck to a different configuration where I swapped a 2-wheel drive transmission in and just a single right to the drop box. So I'm going to show you some math now because I like math. Okay, so this is my math chart. How does crawl ratio work? We have our transmission gear times our transfer case times our axle ratio gives us a crawl ratio. So up at the top, since I have a 6L90, you can Google the ratios of a 6L90. I looked them all up. First gear, second, third, all the way to reverse. Note that reverse is always a little taller than your first. So take that into account if you're mud bogging, because if you can spin it forwards, you might not be able to spin it backwards. Anyways, standard stock transfer cases on trucks these days, about 2.72. The SCS case that I run, my bull gear is 1.6. I have 2 different sets of changeout gears and I change them in and out to get an overall ratio. And then we have some standard axle ratios. So a 5-ton is 6.4, your 2.5. And then most trucks, like stock trucks, are gonna be 373, 342, whatever. NP205, 1.96. So these are the older gear to gear transfer case. A lot of guys run, they're amazing. I had one. And then also your typical Turbo 400. So notice your Turbo 400 only has 3 gears. First gear is pretty tall, 2.5-ish, compared to like your 6L90s at 4-to-1. So what is mine right now? First gear of my truck is 4.03. I ran the stock transfer case in low range. My SCS case was 1.3 and my axles were 6.4. I had a 93-to-1 ratio. It's very low. I'm really glad I had 6 gears for this because I was into 3rd gear before I knew it. It worked great though. I never bogged. Like it was always, I could always spin the tires. Bit too low though. What I'm gonna get to now, what I'm changing is instead of having 2 transfer cases, I'm gonna delete this guy and go with a deeper SCS ratio, this 2.8. So I'm gonna have just my tranny first gear again, same as above. 2.8 times my Rockwells gets me about 74-to-1 total. So it's a little bit taller, which I'm hoping, I haven't ran this yet, is gonna put me right in the pocket what I want. It should be still low enough, but also not too low. Make, first gear a little bit more usable, because first gear would just like, boom, hop out of first. I think I was at 6,500 RPM, I could only do like 11 miles an hour in first gear or something. Like it was so low. Just to compare, so you guys can understand, a stock pickup, like how this truck was when I got it. So you have your first gear the same, your transfer case in low, and then your 373 rear end. A stock truck these days is about 41 to 1. Now, if you've ever driven your stock pickup in low range, you're like, holy smokes, it's quite low. For most mud boggers, that would actually be not a bad ratio, 40 to 1. I ran that approximately when I had my 1 tons and 40s, and it was actually pretty good. Like, it worked really well with my LS. Now, as I mentioned before, the older trucks, like you got your Turbo 400 trannies or maybe your 4L80. 4L80s have the same ratios. They just have an overdrive. And then maybe you're running a 205. Older trucks are you're going to have only a 2.48 times your 205 in low, and then times your standard ratio 373, let's say. You're only 18 to 1, which is not a very good crawl ratio. For stock tires, you'd be okay, maybe up to 35s, but a lot of times you're going to find this is not enough and you're not able to rev it out, and it's just bogging a lot. You're in the converter a lot, and you're not going to really be able to spin the tires or get out of the holes and up the hills like you want to. Anyways, I think, in my opinion, I've had a few trucks, depending on your horsepower, your weight, whatever. If you're doing any kind of mud bogging, if you have even 40-inch tires, you're going to want to be at least at 35, maybe 50 to 1 in that range. Anything over that, I would say 50 to 1 is your minimum. You're going to want that. Unless you have a crazy motor with, 800, 1,000 horsepower, your gearing won't matter as much because you're just going to spin the tires regardless. My plan is to turbo my LS eventually. So I'm going to have some good feedback on what's a good ratio. I've got a friend that runs a K5 with a turbo 4.8. He's about 67 to 1, and when he's got his 4 to 1s in his SCS, and it will blow the tires off. So it works really, really well. He can get away with his 3 to 1 sometimes, which is closer to 50 to 1, I want to say. But yeah, to spin these tires in the mud, you need a lot of gearing advantage. So trying to think what else I was going to say on this video about crawl ratio. An easy way that you can figure out your crawl ratio and some of your speeds is I use this website that's called 4low.com. So it's 4lo.com, and then you go to the calculators section up here and you click on gear ratio. So what you do is up here, both charts are exactly the same. But what you can do is you can type in your tire diameter. So let's say you're running, 49-inch tires, and you're running 2.5-ton Rockwells, 6.72, and your transmission is a Turbo 400, so you have a 2.48 first gear, and your SCS case is 3 to 1. So you want to know how fast you're going in first gear, wide open, let's say. So you're in first gear and you're going to be, let's say your red line 6,500 RPM. All you have to do is type in 5 of these 6. It will calculate the other one. So you can leave any of them out and it will calculate it. So you can go boom. So telling you your crawl ratio is 50 to 1. And wide open in first, you're going to be 19 miles an hour. So let's say that's, almost 30 clicks. Then you can say, okay, I'm going to grab second gear. So make sure you delete your miles an hour. Okay, now I'm in second wide open. I'm going to be doing 32 miles an hour, which is about 50K. And my crawl ratio changed to 30 to 1. So you can play with this and figure out what you're trying to do. The other thing you can do is you can see what your top speed is. Let's say, you're in third gear, whatever. This truck technically would go 47 miles an hour. Wide open, third gear, honing. You can go the other way too. You can say, I want to be at 20 miles an hour in first gear, so 2.48, and tell me what transfer case ratio I need to accomplish that. You can hit calculate, and it'll tell you, you need a 2.8 to 1 to get it to be in that range. You can use this for your car, or your truck on the road too. You can say, I need to swap to 35s and I want my RPMs at 120 to be at 2100 RPM because I think that my motor's going to be happy there. So you're gonna say, I wanna be 2100, and I'm gonna swap to my cool 410s, and my tires are 35s, and I know that my overdrive is 0.67, and I know my transfer case on the highway is gonna be in 1, and I know that I'm gonna try and find my speed in let's say 6th gear or overdrive. So that's saying, you know, with 35s, 410s, I'm gonna be at 80 miles an hour at 2100 RPM. So you can kind of like use this to figure out what your gearing you can pick, or what size tire you can get. I don't know, you can just play with it and see. So it's kind of a cool tool. I use it all the time. I'm trying to figure out crawl ratios and transfer cases and stuff. It'd be cool if this thing had 2 transfer case areas, but it only has 1. So if you have 2 transfer cases like I had, you have to put them both in there and do the math on your own. But either way, I like this tool. It's just easy to find. I just type in forlow.com and I go to gear ratio. So it's pretty cool. That you can just use your calculator as well if you're just trying to multiply all this stuff together. But regardless, yeah, that's how you calculate crawl ratio. And like I said, if you're mud bogging or if you're doing anything, these numbers are what gets you from A to B. A lot of guys, you know, they're stuck in a hole. They don't know why their truck won't rev out. The torque converter is just hot. They're overheating their tranny, all this stuff. It's probably because you're in this pocket here and you want to be up here somewhere. That's what I figured out with playing with these for way too long. But gearing matters and horsepower matters. Pick your poison. Anyways, that's what I got for today. What's going on, garage?